The reason you don't make sales and money with Google Ads for your online business is because you are blindly following Google's guidance or the guidance of an agency and a freelancer rather than a proven strategy like this. The business I sold last year for 700K did over 2 million in profitable ads revenue. I've replicated this across multiple businesses. Let me show you how I do it for this one. This site that sells metal pergolas online. Now, what most people do is they put their site into Merchant Center and they set up a shopping campaign. And what happens is Google's algorithm, it comes, it crawls their site, it understands the attributes, the descriptions, and it decides what keywords to show them for. And it goes for volume. It'll go for volume because you've given it a budget to spend. And this is where 95% of ad accounts lose right out the gate. Here I've asked GPT to give me, based on a crawl of this site, the sort of search terms that Google will decide these products are eligible to be served for. Google decides the keywords in shopping unless you hack the system and use a more intricate setup. So you're not saying what you want to show for. Google is deciding what's appropriate. And some of what Google shows you for will be great, but a lot of it will be hyper generic because that's where the volume is. Some of it will be completely irrelevant. So we've got generic search terms like pergola, outdoor pergola, backyard pergola. We've also got DIY pergola, which if we're selling new ones has no relevance to us at all. How to build it, a cheap one. Maybe we sell very high ticket ones, so cheap isn't any good for us. These are the sort of places where most ad accounts are burning money. So if we look at a cross section of a few examples, not all keywords are created equal. We've got waste keywords, which most accounts are burning money on. I will see things like DIY gazebo, pre-owned gazebo, Costco, eBay, that sort of thing. Google will deem those keywords relevant and it will show you for them. And there is a lot of search volume. So you'll get clicks because people do click on ads. They like to window shop and you will waste money. So first things first, this system gets rid of those, make sure we're not wasting budget there. Then we make sure our budget isn't bloated with generic keywords. Things like gazebo, pergola, these will convert. They'll convert occasionally, but at quite a poor rate. They're right at the top of the funnel. They're where conversion and buying intent is low. It's a very browsing search term. Google will give you lots and lots of traffic for them because there's lots available. Look, 250K, 300K. The CPCs are normally pretty high, and the propensity to convert, having seen inside hundreds of ad accounts with all different product types, are really, really low because there is a lot of customer journey to happen between searching gazebo, pergola, and actually buying one, spending $5,000, $10,000 on one, okay? Then as we move down, you've got things like, okay, they know what specific size they want. They want a 12 foot by 12 foot. They know what brand they'd like to buy from. Or even better, they know they want one made of aluminum, they want a hard top gazebo, and they want screens on the side. Or they want this size, this product model from this brand. Now, these people are like gold to our e-commerce business because these are people who are ready to buy. They know what they want. They've moved down the funnel. Their propensity to convert is so high. But as you can see, this is actual CPC data. The cost per click is not linear with the propensity to convert because so many people are driving the cost per click up by inefficiently going after the generic terms. So what that means is an average conversion rate on a generic term like gazebo or pergola, you're looking at about 2,000 to 5,000 visitors to make a sale. And that's why so many people say, I'm getting ad traffic, but I'm just not making conversions. There must be a problem on my product page. And actually, often it's further upstream. It's the type of customers that they're getting. Because remember, customer types and intents are not created equal. Imagine you owned a physical retail store and somebody walked in and said, I want a 12 foot by 12 foot wooden gazebo, and they go right there and they look at it versus someone who says, just here to browse. And that's essentially what we're looking at here in keyword form for online business. So you can see here, if we're using 5,000 clicks at 129 per click for gazebo as a search term, it's going to take us 6.5K roughly of ad spend for every conversion. Now, let's assume an AOV of around 4K. In my school community where we teach all the strategies to sell high ticket products online, we normally aim for about a 3K. That's what my businesses that have done 7 figures in revenue are built around as an average order value. So we need to be looking to spend in the region of about $500 to $1,000 per sale we make to make sure we're nice and profitable. Now that is just never going to happen if we are spending all of our budget on these generic keywords. But if we're spending on keywords further down the funnel where they know what size they want, what brand they want, or even better, they know what material they want. They know a few of the different types and functions and features. That is where we're looking at things like a 1% conversion rate or a 0.5% conversion rate. And in that case, we might only need to spend, say, $300 or $500 to get a conversion. And that's where the profit really starts to happen. And then when we hone our ads account using this system to prioritize this traffic, sure, there's less traffic of these specific keywords, but that's okay. Because if we form our ads account to say, right, I want to try and win 150 of those 170 monthly searches for aluminium hardtop gazebo with screens, and I'm happy to leave the gazebo pergola DIY gazebo traffic, and we stack those hyper targeted keywords on top of each other. That's how we make sure, if we're getting 2,000 ad clicks a month, that those 2,000 are converting at a really strong rate. And that's where we start to print money. So, what we have to do is keyword research, and we have to do strong keyword research so that we can start to assign the relevant keywords to our business and our products to buckets, because we're going to have three buckets. We're going to have top of funnel, which is where they're browsing. The conversion rate is low, the terms are generic. They're things like pergola, gazebo, canopy. We're going to have middle of funnel, which is where people know more, they're closer to buying, they're therefore more valuable to us because they're more likely to convert, but they're not quite the hyper targeted ones yet. So that's, they know a brand, they know a size, they know a couple of features and functions. The keyword gets a bit more intended, a bit more long tail. We want to be more aggressive, but not yet hyper aggressive. Then we've got the people who know pretty much exactly what they want. They want a motorized pergola. They want it attached to the house. They want a motorized one with LEDs. They want this brand and this product. And these are the ones that are there. They're ready to buy. We're going to convert at a high rate. Let's win as many of those clicks as possible and get those sales and make that profit. So, how this works is we start with the keyword research, and we have to use a couple of tools here. Now, my absolute favorite tool is one we've built inside the 1% Ecom school community. This is something you get free access to when you join the community. It's where we basically teach all of these strategies for selling products online, high ticket e-commerce. And what we've done here is we've built a custom SEO GPT that essentially has a direct link into the API from Data for SEO. Now, Data for SEO is what Ahrefs, SEMrush, almost all of the big keyword research tools, this is what they use. It's where they get their data. By connecting it directly with our GPT, we can prompt the GPT and ask questions to streamline our keyword research rather than sifting through tables, CSVs, etc. So what I've done here is I've asked the GPT to help me find those more valuable, more intended keywords. And it's given me some buckets. So there's going to be a focus on materials. So whether they want aluminum, wooden, cedar wood, redwood, all that sort of thing. There's going to be size-based intent. Basically, do they want 14 foot, 10 by 10, etc.? Those are people who are higher value. There's going to be use case or needs. So they want screens around the outside. They want something for windy areas. There's going to be certain brands like Yardistry in the space that we might want to go after. The roof type, some people want a clear roof, some people want aluminum roof, some people want hard top, some people want louvered. All of these things starts to give us ideas of how we're going to start to bucket the keywords that are going to have value for us into our setup. The next thing I like to do is I like to use Ahrefs and grab some competitors. So I found Domi Outdoor Living. They've got some really good performance for some gazebo and pergola related keywords. And now I can start to see, okay, things like, okay, there's stuff about adjustable, about louvered with retractable canopy, a manual retractable canopy, all these sorts of things. Again, okay, 12 by 16 louvered is a size people are interested in. These are all certain keywords that I can have a look at going after. And what I do is I set up my funnel like this. So I've got three campaigns. Most people, probably 95% of the market plus, are running one shopping campaign. The problem for this is that you can only have one bid per shopping campaign. You can change it by, ad group, for example, but you can't change it by keyword. So I can have a different bid for this product that's 1,000, and I can have a different bid to one that's got 1,800. That's fine. But the keywords are what changes the value here, not just the product type, because a search for pergola is just as useless for this product as it is for this product. But a search of metal louvered pergola is very valuable to both. So these three campaigns allow me to have different bids based on the bucket of keywords. So it corresponds to these. And what I do is I have a top of funnel campaign, and that is where my low intent keywords go, like gazebo, like pergola, But also, there will be some that fall into there that do have value. So we try and get maybe 20% of impression share. So every one in five will show up. Some of those clicks will win because there will be some keywords that we find do convert in there. And then by finding them, we can move them down to other campaigns and spend more and make money off them. So it's like a learning campaign, but it's also there to make sure we are not spending much at all of our budget on low intent keywords. We cut the wastage out completely. We don't have them show in any campaign. That would be things like pre owned or DIY. Then we've got the middle of funnel campaign. Here is where people are starting to get more intented. So we've got a size, a brand, a few features. This is where we start to bid more. We might try and show up for about 50%. We'll bid a bit more aggressively and we will start to make more sales from these keywords. And then finally, we've got our third campaign, our bottom of funnel, which is where we're going to be really aggressive. We're going to show up for 80% plus of the searches. We're going to try and get as much of this traffic on site as possible because these are our high value keywords where people really know what they want. They're ready to buy. And we're going to see those high conversion rates of maybe 1%, 2%. And therefore, we're going to have great return on ad spend and great profitability. And so when we set it up like this, that allows us to make sure that we are always assigning the right bid value to the customer's propensity to convert based on their keyword. And that's how we get hyper profitable ads. And we move the keywords around. And there is a process inside the school community for how we look at these ads and constantly say, that keyword's doing really well in the top of funnel. Let's move it down and bid more. That one's not performing quite as well as we expected. Let's move it up. And that's how we constantly make sure we're optimizing and making the absolute maximum out of our spend. And this is a complete game changer when it comes to winning on Google Ads.